This is something that I don't think enough people talk about, and it's not really talked about, not from what I've seen. Being pretty, being a hot girl, it is a gift and a curse. Because as somebody that's been sexualized pretty much my whole life for the way I look, it gets to a point where that's all most people see. I think people don't talk about this because they feel like they're conceited for saying that they're good looking, or, you know, they're being ungrateful for feeling this way. But at the end of the day, somebody like me that's been sexualized for as long as I can remember, that can actually be really harmful for the way you perceive yourself and your self-esteem for a number of reasons. Like, in my case, because I was always sexualized my whole life and objectified, and the way I look has always been the forefront of pretty much most of my interactions my whole life, you really start to like mentally zone in on that and hyper focus on that and base all your worth around the way you look. So God forbid anything changes about your appearance, you know, me for example, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, that can that can make you spiral. Do you know what I mean? And that's just one side to why being attractive can be a curse, because people put so much pressure on that and so much importance on that, the way you look, especially in society nowadays. People are judging you from the minute they look at you before you've even said anything. A lot of the interactions I have, I feel like people never see me, really. Like, it really takes them having an actual interest in getting to know me for them to want to see me. Like, I feel like a lot of interactions I have with people, the first thing someone says, especially a man, first thing people point out, my ass, my body, my this, my that, is always physical. And for somebody with a tremendous amount of emotional depth, that can be really exhausting and really draining. And like, there are times where I actually think, like, is that all I'm worth? The way I look? Because it does feel like that sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think I would get I actually didn't think I would get emotional talking about this. Oh my God. As somebody who has so much more to them than the way that they look, for example, I have so much emotional depth and a lot of wisdom actually from the trauma. Nobody looks at me and thinks that there is a brain behind these eyes, behind these, behind that. Do you know what I mean? People's instant perception of me is a lot of the time a lot different to who I actually am.
So I want us to see how attractiveness can be damaging to a woman. Because as an attractive woman, a lot of men would feel the need to humble you, first of all. A lot of men would be drawn to you. A lot of men would want to have a taste of you. A lot of men would want to own you as property. A lot of men would objectify you as an attractive woman. So like this video, basically, we're not going to be talking about just the advantages of being an attractive woman or the doors it opens for you. We're looking at the disadvantages to not just grown women, but young little girls.
I've been attractive most of my life, you know, since I was like 11. And like a lot of young girls, I was followed home by a lot of creepy men circling the block, you know. Those experiences touch us very, very early in life. Very early. And that's not even the first experiences. I was even younger, where grown men were advancing towards me, you know. And so developing a career where I literally live and make my money off of the male gaze, it wasn't a conscious decision that I made where I just one day woke up and said, men. That is not what happened, and that is not how I feel.
So, while attractiveness may bring some sort of social advantages, in some context, it can equally attract harassment, objectification, stalking, jealousy, unwanted attention, and so many other negative things. And for young girls, it can be worse because the risks are even greater because they lack the experience, the power, and the social protection that adults have. And it's so sad because we live in a society where there are lots of predators. When I say predators, I mean men that prey on young women, and not just young women, but like women in general. But, younger women get the brunt of it because obviously they don't have an understanding of life yet. So they tend to be at the receiving end more. It's an obvious fact that men love to prey on younger women, and for obvious reasons, of course, because they are naive, they can be easily taken advantage, they don't have any life experience. And why is that the case, we may ask? For some of them, the excuse they often throw around is that those young girls are attractive, or they look older than their age, or they were not able to differentiate between them and older women. They thought they were older women, which is obviously false, because we've seen cases also where they were aware that those were little girls, and most of them still went ahead to pursue these little girls sexually or harass them sexually. So it's not really an age thing or an attractiveness thing or them not being able to differentiate between children and adults. Is that predatory nature in a lot of men that is the problem here? That most of them love to take advantage of women, love to prey on young women, harass women. So that's the society we live in. And that's why we need to protect our young women, not just young women, every type of woman. Most women's first abuser, harasser was a man at a young age, when she was a teenager, when she was a young girl. I can tell you that for free. When I was a young girl, of course, like many other girls, I was harassed so many times by older men, sometimes men that were old enough to be my father. So we live in a very crazy world where we have lots of loose men that do not know how to control themselves, who are wolves in sheep clothing. You may not even be able to tell the difference. They come in the form of uncles, they come in form of teachers, they come in form of friendly neighbors, friendly people, but you never know the intention of most men. So yeah, like this video is majorly geared toward protecting the girl child, watching out for the girl child, not letting these predatory men prey on our girls, all in the guise of finding her attractive or pretending not to know the difference between a young girl child and an adult woman.
I feel like being too pretty in high school is the ultimate downfall for many, because from a very young age, your life is about your physical appearance in a way that really may not be appropriate or even able to be conceptualized fully by a teenager. And when you're getting all of this attention because of your appearance at a very young age, it's hard to create an identity outside of that. And so as you enter young adulthood and eventually have to go out into the world, for many of us after high school, you're going out into the world not as you, but as who you think you should be because of the attention you received for all these years, starting very young, for how you look. And I find like a lot of the girls that were very pretty in high school, when they entered the real world, still leading with what had been special about them up to that point instead of developing more as a person. These looks actually got them into a limited set of life, so to speak. A lot of these girls immediately, once they got into the world, became what we would define as fast, or very quickly got themselves in stressful situations, oftentimes with the opposite, or maybe even same sex, oftentimes rushed into parenthood, maybe before they'd properly vetted the partner, and became single parents at a young age. Not saying that that's bad, but a lot of times this actually results in people not even able to take the full advantage of their beauty that they were endowed with, because they have stifled their ability to fully experience adulthood due to other responsibilities that maybe found them easier, or they were able to achieve even earlier because of these looks. Things like attracting, I'll just say, male attention, and then having that turn into a child, and then having that limit what you're able to do in young adulthood because now you're responsible for a life, or thinking the looks were permanent, and not really taking care of themselves, and kind of falling back on, well, I'm still pretty, and things like that, from their youth and ultimately using their youthfulness and their looks to neglect themselves and thinking they can get away with it longer. But the truth is, after like 5 years of high school, you really know who's been taking care of themselves and who hasn't. And you're still pretty young after 5 years of high school. So it's just like, dang, you were endowed with such great beauty at a young age, and it led your life. And it also swayed your ability to truly see yourself or develop yourself, which ultimately diminishes your ability to care for yourself properly and give yourself the best outlook and outcome. It brings a lot of attention when you're young, but I find that attention isn't always handled in the best ways, especially as we age.
I believe the tragedy here and the disadvantage about, men finding you attractive at a young age is that it forces young girls to learn from a young age about male entitlement before they form a personality of their own. Like, what do I mean by that? It makes them infatuated with the idea of romance, male validation, from at such a young age, because they grew up with all that attention from men, all that infatuation about them. That's male attention. It can force a young girl to carve out a personality that would always be centered around men. Like, she would not know any life outside of the male gaze, if you know what I mean. I remember I was watching the Red Table Talk, the one with Jada Pinkett, Willow Smith, her mom, and they brought on Will Smith on one of the episodes, and Willow was talking about how she used to feel really bad when she would hang out with girls her age and she didn't have any boobs, and the boys she liked would not find her attractive, and she was so jealous. She felt bad, and that she remembered telling her dad how she didn't have any boobs, how she wasn't developing and other girls were growing. And she remembered her dad telling her how happy he was. He was so happy that she had delayed growth, delayed puberty, that she wasn't attracting boys. Like, he was telling, like, she said she didn't understand it then, but now, because she was already grown when they had that discussion, but now she understands that. And I think he was explaining to her why that was the case. And what he said was, he wanted her to have a personality outside of the male gaze. He didn't want her to have girl problems, woman problem, attract predators to her at such a young age when she had not fully developed mentally. So it goes along with, like, it shows us that these men, they actually know when a little girl is growing up, and especially the ones that grow up really fast and are very pretty, it can actually be very detrimental to them, to their growth, to their development as humans. I'm not trying to say it's even bad for a young girl to look attractive. Of course, a grown-up man should be able to hold himself and should be able to control his emotions, his feelings, whatnot. Like, there's no excuse for looking at a young girl, a teenager, and underage a certain way. Like, men actually know how men operate, and they know that men are predators. That's why they try their best to always look out for their girls. This is why we should always be on the watch for young girls, teenagers, little girls that are still growing. Like, there are lots of predators out there. If you have a little daughter or sister, you need to teach them how to protect themselves from predators. That's why you need to let them dress up as little children. You need to let them know that they have no business talking to a grown-up man. You need to report any grown-up man that you see around them, trying to get their numbers, trying to text them. As I tell you, men are capable of doing a lot of evil and wicked things to young girls.
If you don't teach your daughter what a predator looks like, the world will teach her the hard way. Moms, older sisters, aunties, listen closely. If that's not you, keep scrolling. I'm the mother of 3 daughters, and let me tell you something from real experience. Predators don't care about your child's innocence, your rules, your home, your trust. When my daughter was 16, she brought home a 32-year-old man. Yes, you heard that right. 16 and 32. I knew instantly something was wrong, because no grown man with self-respect and integrity is pursuing a child. It's grooming, wrapped in convenience, because young girls don't always see the danger, but older women always do. And now that my daughter's grown, she looks back and sees how disgusting it really was. She sees exactly what that man was doing, and exactly why he targeted her. Because predators count on young women not knowing any better, and parents too afraid to be able to call it what it is. This is why we speak up. This is why we teach them. This is why we tell the truth without sugarcoating it. Tell your daughters that real love has boundaries, not secrecy. Tell them older men that chase younger women, it's not romantic, it's predatory. Teach them that fast affection, random gifts, obsessive attention are not signs of devotion, but grooming tactics meant to trap them in silence. Help them understand that a man who isolates them, makes everything private, or tells them is not complimenting them, but he's exposing himself. Predators don't look like monsters. They look like charming men who know how to shapeshift around adults. Your daughter deserves truth, not silence. Education, not fear. Strength, not secrecy. Speak openly, speak boldly. Speak before their innocence gets manipulated by someone who sees them as prey.
Hey y'all, my name is Bree. I have been dealing with kids for 10 years professionally. I have a whole ebook on daycare with a daycare guide in it, questions you should ask the daycare, how to tour for a daycare as a person who worked in a daycare, the things you need to look out for as a parent, the questions you need to ask, signs of abuse, all that. So this is just something I want to say to y'all. My last video, I was talking about how predators escalate the behavior that they show you. And the reason why they do this is just to see if you're going to be comfortable with them being a predator around you, essentially. And if you are, then you're a predator too. And in that video, I mentioned that they do things that are suggestive, but not outwardly predatory, meaning that to somebody else, it might be innocent, but to somebody else, it might be weird. You know what I'm saying? For example, predators will always try to find time to be alone with your child. Anybody that is constantly trying to have time alone with your child is a huge red flag. Oh, well, why can't you just drop them all to me? Why do you gotta stay? Why you gotta stay with me at the house with them? Why can't you just leave them? Why can't I just spend alone time with them? Red flag. Anybody that is constantly trying to have excuses to touch on children, constantly tickling kids that aren't ticklish. My aunt had a husband that always was tickling me. I'm not ticklish. And I was 14. So anybody constantly trying to have excuses to tickle your child, trying to touch your child, always trying to pick your child up, always trying to put their child on your lap. Another thing is people that are overly helpful in ways that they don't need to be. No one should be volunteering and excited to change a dirty diaper. That's odd. And last but not least, anybody that tries to make you the bad guy is the parent. So, oh, why won't you just let them have the candy? Don't be like that. Uncle Jerry would have gave you the candy. They're trying to demonize you as the parent and build that trust with that child, so that way it's them against you. And that turns into your child keeping secrets with this person, because they feel like, oh, this person is going to give me what I want and my mom isn't. Red flag.
And when I was 15, 16, 17, even 18, I used to really wonder, what the fuck do these grown-ass men want with me? What, they can't find nobody their own age? And now that I am old enough to understand that these men was predators, I can't unsee it. Even if I am 18 and you are a 35-year-old man, that is still weird. I'm sorry, it is still weird. And with all of this stuff going on in the media talking about, yeah, you need to get a younger woman because they're easier to court, they're more submissive, they're this, they're that. Y'all sounding more and more like a predator. Because what happens when that 18-year-old grows up and they actually realize what they want out of life, who they want to be, and what they actually want to do with their life? And then they realize that you done tried to steal all their youth from them. Like, let's really talk about it.
I think men love vulnerability. They love it when a little girl is naive, innocent, can be easily taken advantage of without her knowing, without her knowledge that she is being abused or, used for her body. And that's why they would sexualize a child that knows nothing, that even your discussion with them would not even align, because obviously their brains have not fully developed. And vulnerable kids can be groomed. They can groom those kids. They can tell them what to do. They would not question them. They would do exactly what they want. They would use them to their advantage. And I tell you, if you think this is far-fetched, you lie, because this is very, very, very common, as almost every girl's first experience of harassment. Sexual harassment can be traced to when she was a little girl, 11, 10, younger. And it was not a girl her age that was harassing her or saying something inappropriate about her body or making a sexual comment around her. I tell you, it was grown-up men, mature men. I don't know if it's a psychological problem in men, because most of them seem to have it. I don't know why they would find little children attractive. I don't know what is there. That's not attraction, actually. I don't want to even refer to it as attraction, because it is obviously not attraction. It's just objectification. It's just an opportunist trying to take advantage of a little vulnerable, naive girl. And so if you're a parent, if you're an aunt, we need to protect the girl child, because you never know what you're getting once she steps out of that door. You never know. And guess what? She does not even need to step out the door to encounter a predator. Sometimes it's the relatives that you trust that is the predator. Sometimes it's people around you, your friends, your big uncles, whatever.
Growing up, my dad would tell me that all men are predators. He did not speak really highly of men. And the reason why is because he needed to drill it into my mind so that I could have a sense of self-preservation. So now in my adulthood, a lot of people do not accept that. And obviously men aren't going to admit that. But men are predators, okay? Their nature is. It's like human nature, right? It's typically animalistic at its core, because humans are still animals. But when you do not ascend past that, you stay at that lower nature. Most people don't ascend. Men are predators. And we can look at this when it comes to the topic of consent. In my last video, I spoke about how men will go into spaces where there are guaranteed going to be women, and they will basically just harass them. They'll spark up conversation, and if you read the comments, it's hundreds of women telling their story, and every now and then is a random man commenting. And I've had to monitor some of these, so you may not see some of them, but there's a random man saying, oh, so women only want male attention if they desire them. And the fact that that's a hard concept for a lot of men to accept is very telling, because it's not about consent. It's not about if you want them. It's not about if you desire them as well. It's about what they want and what they want to take, okay? And if you're going to be a willing participant. It's not about your desires. It's not about if you consent. And we see this very often, how the lines of consent get blurred when we hear stories of women coming forth about being assaulted, about being, I can't say the word, actually assaulted. We see this. The consent was not there. There are lots of women actually who will admit that they've engaged in acts that they probably didn't want to, and they did it because that's what the man had pressured them into doing. There are a lot of women who admit to engaging in that when they don't want to, because it's not about consent. If it's not 100% yes, if there's room for a no, it's a no, okay? And they don't read for consent. That's predatory, okay? So don't be fooled by, there's a lot of beauty to being a woman. There's a lot of beauty to existing in your feminine essence, but you also have to aggressively protect it and drill certain things into your mind so that you can live in the safest way you can and protect your family, protect your children, protect whoever it's possible that you can, and teach them. Because unfortunately the world is not rainbows and sunshine.
So, like, raising the girl child is serious business. It is serious business because the world is not fair to women, because most men are predators and we have to protect ourselves out there. It's a patriarchal world. Most of the time, before the law even takes its course, the people around me even deny it and support the man. Because most men, they actually think the same way, and some women have also been so indoctrinated into patriarchy that no matter what, they would still support the men. Yeah, we've heard stories. I've shared so many stories regarding that on this channel. So yeah, so like, we need to protect the girl child. That's basically what this video is all about. We need to protect the girl child, because no girl is safe until every girl is safe. Anyways, I'd love to hear what y'all think down below in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel in case you're not subscribed. And thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Stay blessed and stay safe. And from me, it's a bye.